talk to you today about the joy of being a chaplain at Village on the Green and what does it mean to be a chaplain in general. Many of you, of course, have experienced a chaplain. Either you know me from here or perhaps in the hospital or in the military or in some other fashion. But I'd like to share a little bit about being a chaplain in general and then my goal and priorities here at Village on the Green. So, chaplains in general. Traditionally, a clergy person is a chaplain who represents a specific religious group and is attached then to a secular institution like a hospital, a prison, the military, schools. But more recently, chaplain training has focused on providing spiritual care to persons of any faith or worldview. In the military, they often, if they had the luxury of it and it was a large enough group, there might be a Protestant chaplain and a Catholic chaplain and maybe a Jewish chaplain. But oftentimes, one of those was the only person and they knew how to conduct services and provide some basic things for people of any faith. Well, today, you have chaplains in the military and others who represent many more different faith groups. But in general, the training today is about being able to provide services and care for people no matter what their perspective, religious or not. Most chaplains today have received a year of clinical training which follows their master's degree, 3 or 4 years of seminary graduate education. So most chaplains you will meet today who have gone through that probably have had the equivalent of about 8 years of higher education. The goal of a chaplain is to help each person experience what is meaningful in their lives and to find purpose in their lives and to develop and use coping skills during the transitions or the crisis times that we all run into in our lives. So what does it mean to be the chaplain here at Village on the Green? Well, let me tell you a little about myself. I received my Master of Divinity degree from Emory University in Atlanta, and I began then a career as a United Methodist pastor. And over a period of about 10 or 11 years, I served 3 different congregations around Florida. I then spent 18 years as a chaplain with VOTG Hospice, and then came here to Village on the Green as a chaplain in the year 2013. So this October will be my 7th anniversary. When I moved to Orlando, I found a church family at the St. John Lutheran Church, and eventually then transferred from being Methodist to Lutheran. I like to think I have the best of both. But my view here is, as your chaplain at Village on the Green, is like the village here is my congregation. A congregation of fine people who have a variety of religious traditions and who have a variety of views about spiritual matters and how we look at the world. For residents, I believe that spiritual health is part of living well. And so I try to encourage us all to find the things in life that promote our spiritual health. For team members, I'm using a term I learned recently that the military uses, chaplain, as a force multiplier, meaning that the chaplain's support to team members can help team members through crisis or deal with situations so that they can continue to do well in their position. And try to be a resource to everyone who's part of our team and your team members here, residents and team members. Well, my priorities are really 3, and I'll give you details in a minute. Number 1 is to support the things in life that nurture your soul and maintain your faith, whoever you are. Number 2 is to help during crisis events in our lives and in the sort of natural life transitions that that happen. And then my third priority is to offer opportunities for us to live healthy and to grow in the spiritual part of our life. So, number one, supporting the things that nurture us, our soul, our spirit. Well, the obvious is to try to help encourage everyone to maintain a connection with a religious community or church or synagogue that you have already been part of. And so we try to provide transportation, churches and congregations, but we also have groups who bring religious programs here to our campus. The nearby Catholic and Episcopal churches have done that. The Jewish Pavilion does that. Of course, today during our distancing, during the COVID virus time, maintaining connections is more about using our TV or online media. And I know it's not the same, but it is at least our attempts today. Then the other part of supporting things that nurture you is to offer things specifically here on campus. We have services, Shabbat once a month, monthly Sunday services that are often led by some of our own residents and friends. We try to provide special programs for holidays and events like Christmas and Easter or Passover or Memorial Day and those kinds of things. And also we encourage the social groups. Prior to the virus, we had, I know of 2 women's lunch groups, a Presbyterian and a Baptist one, that helped support people with their religious communities. The other thing I like to try to do to nurture us is to promote our personal education and growth. I know after the Catholic service, they had a group discussion time. I offer things like this time, Coffee with the Chaplain, where we have different topics and opportunities to talk. Make sure that we have spiritual components to our village university, and encourage people to find ways that are creative expression through art or music or journaling. Overall, I want to encourage everyone to find what nurtures their own spiritual wellness, whether one is a part of a religious group or tradition or not. I try to write articles and put out messages that encourage that. We've had some labyrinth walks, meditation, Tai Chi. In the future, I hope we're going to create a little healing garden and maybe even create a chapel-like room for meditation and events. But we'll talk about that later. So the first priority is helping people maintain and build on whatever religious or personal traditions you have. The second is to help about crisis times. And we know that sometimes we go to the hospital or our friends and neighbors do, so I make hospital calls and visits. Today, most of that is happening by phone, which is a challenge, but it does. Calls and visits to your home, to conduct or be part of funerals or memorials. We have had a grief support group and a dementia caregiver group. I conduct an annual tribute, so we give tribute and honor to those who've died in the last year. We of course have Memorial and Veterans Day and special events. So that's a very important part of being a chaplain here, is helping with those kinds of crises. But I really love to talk about opportunities for us to grow in spiritual life. This chapter of life that we call being a senior adult has an awful lot of opportunities for us to learn and grow, in addition to coping with things that happen. I firmly believe in trying to provide physical spaces that encourage us for nurturing our souls and our spirits. So one of the things that we hope that on our campus, as our redevelopment, the construction phase gets over, is to try to have a inspirational garden or a healing garden or a labyrinth area to go and spend some time in nature where, weather permitting, we can enjoy that. And we've got some plans to make some of that happen. We also would love to have a chapel-like space for spiritual activities, which we have quite a few, and also a quiet space for that any of us could go and spend a few minutes. And so that's something that we'll work on. The other, I'd like to encourage everyone to be open to new ways of enriching your life and your spirit. And sometimes that takes a little bit of curiosity. You know, this is a great time of life to revisit or to renew faith practices. When we're busy with careers and family and other things, we often don't have the time to do some of what we would like. And so this is an opportunity to take a little time to do that. I know people who study or pray or read or are part of some things today that they didn't do prior, and it's really made a difference in their life. But it does take a little willingness to grow and to read or listen or watch or try new things. One of the ways that we grow spiritually is also through volunteer service. That's a challenge right now, but many of us do volunteer work. But one can do volunteer work by phone when you call and support people, and there are opportunities for that. I also want to help us to remember that there is an important contribution that we make as elders in our communities. In many cultures around the world, being one of the elder members of the family and the community is highly valued and honored, and common for people to see them that way. We, I think, have lost much of that in our society, and so I do think too that we should remember that we are an important part of our families and our culture. We have experience that we can share. There's a power to telling stories, even if the kids and grandkids are tired of hearing the stories. There's power and meaning in many of those things. So when you get a chance, share your stories, share things with younger people in your family or in other opportunities. One way you can do that at a time like this is to write down or record stories and memories that they may not appreciate now, but they may one day do that. Well, I want to share with you 2 dreams I have for the spiritual care and chaplain work here at Village on the Green. And both of these are in the future, but maybe not too far off. Number 1 is, I think, we can model successful aging and spiritual enrichment in ways that many people are not aware of. And so I would love for Village on the Green to be almost like an education center. I have connections with people where we might be able to have chaplains who are in their clinical training to maybe come and get some real world experience in a class or coming and being here and let you share some stories with them. So I'd love to have that happen one day. And we also could have educational sessions that other religious leaders might come to, where we share the vision of this time of life being a time of growth and vitality. I think we are able to do that and offer that. That would be fun. And my other dream is that within our life space organization, that I hope we can continue to raise the profile of spiritual leadership and chaplains across the whole enterprise. And maybe we can be an example to others of how spiritual life and chaplaincy can be broader than just dealing with crisis intervention or end of life, that it can be about wellness and growth. So that's the secret of some things I would love to be able to accomplish in the future. Well, in conclusion, a chaplain colleague once wrote something like this of what he said to one of his patients, and I'm paraphrasing it. But I like this. He said, one of the goals of being a chaplain is to honor and to deepen the turning points in your life. I hope that in many ways as I can, I'll be able to support each of you in this chapter of your journey in your life. May you live well. May you prosper in the things that really matter. And may you enjoy the gift that is each and every day. Thank you.